Okay, we are ready to start. And we may well have some welcome distractions in the form of other people joining us, but they're very welcome to join this community of meditators that's gathered here tonight. And it's a privilege and a pleasure to be with you. There are many different ways to meditate. There are many different purposes for which meditation can be used. And the intention of this 3-part series is to explore ways to enhance our ability to manage distractions and obstacles, so that in the process we can discover what lies beyond. And tonight our focus is on the warm down phase of meditation. And it's good to see many of you coming in looking so relaxed. The third evening of a series has a different quality to it, and that's what we're going to be exploring, because we've been paralleling with each of the 3 parts of this series the components of meditation that we have identified as being the warm-up, the middle and the warm-down. So if anybody's here who hasn't travelled with us before, maybe you could just indicate yourself to me. And so you will be journeying.
When you say us, you mean yourself, or have you been to all the meditations before?
Us specifically in this series, and I'm glad you asked for clarification, in this series. And so you will be able to move with us, because we are going to be moving through the warm-up, through the middle phase of meditation, into the warm-down, where we will be focusing and absorbing ourselves at the end of the session, which is the conclusion of the series. Each week we become aware that in order to manage distractions and obstacles, we want to be able to distinguish between what we can control and what we cannot. So this is an opportunity, if you want to filter out any external distractions in the form of mobile phones, to adjust them, as we then begin to immerse ourselves in exploring what choices are available to us to determine our responses. Another way of saying that is by referring to the evolution that Stephen Covey, a man who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, went through when he was discovering his own way forward and what he was later to share with millions of people. And he writes that he was in a library reading a book, and in the book was a statement that changed his life. And the statement is simply, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space, our freedom lies. In meditation, we are exploring and creating that space. And who knows what we're going to discover, what choices lie in that space for us as we become more and more able to determine our own responses. And it's not only about noticing how we might change our responses in the space of a meditation. It's also about allowing these changes or understandings or awarenesses to flow into our lives. So in talking about flow, I'm curious to know, based on the shower meditation that we did last week, has anybody noticed their awareness has changed when they're having a shower? Quite a few hands going up. Would anybody like to give a comment on their experience of what's changed for them? Yes, I have somebody here.
I don't think about anything in the shower. Every day I go into the shower now and I realise I actually am blank. But as soon as I get out of the shower, I start thinking. So I don't know why, whether I'm relaxed in the shower, just letting the water fall, but I'm actually blank palette.
Okay, so you've created new space for yourself.
I don't know if I've been doing it all along, but after you did it with us, the next day when I had my next shower, I just realised I'm not thinking about anything, so maybe I've been doing it all along. I don't know.
No, so you're aware now of your total immersion in the experience of the shower and the space that gives you then to move on with your day in an aware way.
Yeah.
Yes, Manny.
I feel like I'm in a pleasure dome. I feel really incredible that, this is my space. And this is where I'm going to relax and just not think of anything, just chill out and just, be with it. That's what I feel.
And so I think what people are describing is the space between stimulus and response. Clearly, there is a space that you are now discovering that may already have been available to you in your life, but you're now tuning into it and able to enjoy that space and what occurs in that space or what doesn't occur in that space. Okay. Last week, someone posed a question at the end of the session, and I wanted to share that with you tonight. The question itself, how can I stop my thoughts from wandering, is in fact at the heart of the question of what can we control and what can't we. On the one hand, our thoughts will wander. That is the nature of the human mind, wandering thoughts. But on the other hand, when we notice, when we become aware that our thoughts are wandering, we have the ability to bring ourselves back to what we want to focus on. And that's what we're developing here. How do we bring ourselves back? How do we regain the control? And so that's what we're going to be exploring in terms of the choices available to us. Up until this point in time, we have been deconstructing meditation, breaking it down into steps. Tonight, actually from this moment on, we're going to start reconstructing it, rebuilding it. And the building blocks that we're going to be using are moments. One of the things that I'm aware of when people speak to me about meditation is that one of the major deterrents that people seem to find with regard to practicing meditation regularly is the expectation that there is a certain amount of time that you need to spend, or else you're not meditating. They read a book, somebody tells them you need to meditate for this amount of minutes or hours or whatever they're told. They find they can't, or they can't do it regularly, and they think they've failed. And so our focus tonight is it may not be something that takes many minutes, and hence the building block of moments can be very useful. The definition that I'm using for this series is maintaining the present moment. The building block is the moment. The space is the moment wherein the discovery and choices lie. So tonight we're now going to prepare for the warm-up phase of meditation. We know our focus is going to be on the warm down at the end of the evening, but we can't arrive at the warm down without going through the process with the warm-up. So I'm going to invite you to make yourselves comfortable in the chair as you are, and I'm going to guide you as we sit in this room tonight and meditate together through a warm-up phase. So make yourself comfortable in the way that you are and know that you can make any adjustments that you choose. Begin to notice the support of the chair, and the lights will soon be turned down when we have somebody at the back of the room. So a little bit of patience in our warm-up. And so here we are in the warm-up phase with the lights slowly being dimmed so that you can become aware of being in a space where you do not have to pay too much attention to what's going on around you, and you can start to focus the support of the chair, the base of the chair, the back of the chair, and how much you are settling into the chair at this point in time. And when you're ready and you want to increase your internal focus, you can close your eyes now or later, whatever suits. And you can bring your attention to your toes in your shoes as they rest on the floor. Noticing which toes are in contact through your shoes with the floor. And then you can bring your attention to your hands and how they are placed. Notice any sounds. Notice the taste in your mouth. The temperature of the air as you breathe it in. And as you do that, you can begin to notice how your breathing is naturally and easily becoming slower and deeper, naturally and effortlessly. And in the space of sitting as you are, you might like to bring your attention now to the corners of your lips. Noticing the awareness that you have of the muscles that sit at the corners of your lips. Experience those muscles. And you may even notice in the space of that experience that your lips may want to move slightly. They may want to elongate and flatten. And you can allow them to do so, should you choose. Noticing what you're noticing in the region of the corner of your lips. And you may be interested to know that neuroscientists can now tell us that in this region of our mouth, when we smile, an abundance of chemicals are released in our body that bring about relaxation. And what I find is very interesting is that the smile doesn't even have to be an outward smile. It can be an inner smile. It can be the hint of a smile. Mona Lisa-like. Just a hint of a smile. And it can also be a fake smile. It doesn't seem to matter. In the space of the corner of our lips, we have the ability to create a space. And although we might think of smiling as being unconscious and an automatic response, we can find in the space of meditation that it is something that we can create when we choose, and that we can take into whatever space we want in our lives. And so as you notice how you are breathing and your experience of yourself, I invite you to start to become aware of shifting your attention back into this room. And we will gradually turn the lights up. I'm curious in that exercise whether there was something that anyone noticed that they would like to comment on.
I'd like to know more about the detail of such a fine,
The muscle,
yeah.
yes. I'm not sure I can give you the detail. So at this point in time, I'll give you the overview. However, the point that I'm really wanting to make is that this awareness at the corner of your lips, which you might even notice that you can focus on now as you hear me talk with your eyes open, is something that is available to you at any point in time. And you may be getting a sense of the feeling that you can create within the space of bringing your attention to your lips. And there is a neurophysiological response. We are actually altering our neurophysiology when we do this, whether it's fake, whether it's large, whether it's small. And as you sit there now, I just invite you for a few more moments to keep your awareness in the corner of your lips as you are, in the way that you are. And even as you listen to me and with your eyes open, you are actually maintaining the present moment. You are in a mindfulness meditation. And you may get a sense that you could do this anywhere, any time, any place that it occurs to you that you can bring your attention to this space where you have more choices in how you might respond both inwardly and outwardly to whatever situation, or you might like to use it when you sit in the warm-up phase of meditation and bring a smile to your lips, imaginary, real, it's your choice. And so now we're ready to move on into the extended part of the warm-up phase, where we're going to be activating another physiological response called the relaxation response. And I will be guiding you through it so the people who haven't been here previously will just be able to journey with us. However, tonight is about choices. I want to give you more choices, more ways of exploring. And so I invite you in this next part of the warm-up phase, in which we're going to be using the breath to focus our attention when our thoughts wander, to either stay with that as your point of focus, or you might like to choose another way of focusing. So I'm going to make two suggestions. One is that as you sit in your chair, aware of your breath in the space that you're creating, you can create an uplifting word or phrase that occurs to you in that space, that you say inwardly to yourself. You may find that it starts to become in time with your breath. And for those of you who have difficulty sitting still and not moving, I invite you to explore a third way of bringing your focus back to where you want, in the form of moving your thumb and index finger in response to your breath. So as you breathe in, you open. You might like to join me just for a practice of the tactile experience. So just as you breathe in, you're opening. As you breathe out, you're closing. And your hands are positioned somewhere where they're comfortable. The movement can be very subtle. But for some of you, you might find this a good way to move in to anchoring into a point of awareness that is coinciding with your breath. So you'll have three choices, and I'll guide you through that, then give you some space to explore what you choose to bring yourself back to a point of focus when your thoughts start to wander. And so we will now begin the next phase of the warm up phase, and in a moment the lights will dim and we can wait for that as it occurs. And so sitting as you are now, becoming aware of how you are sitting, where your attention actually is at the moment. I invite you to notice which nostril you're breathing through. You may find that one nostril is more open than the other. There is a balancing mechanism within our brain that has one nostril be more open than the other at different stages during the day. So just notice the air going in through one or both nostrils, equally or not. And as you do that, become aware of your breathing, the expansion that's naturally occurring, so that you don't have to do anything. You don't have to try to do anything. You're allowing what happens naturally in your own physiology. And in the space of the breath, you can choose to stay aware of the flow of the inhalation and exhalation, and maybe even discover the space between the inhalation and exhalation. You can create and listen to an uplifting word or phrase in your own head. You can use your fingers to open and close as you breathe in and breathe out. You are anchoring yourself in the present moment when you bring your attention back and just allow yourself the space. And my voice will pause and allow you to experience whatever it is that you're experiencing in the way that you are. Some time for you to be in the space in the way that you are. And then as my voice returns, you can become aware of sitting in the chair in this room and bringing your focus back to an awareness of the room. When you're ready, in your own time, and slowly the lights will be brightened. What I'd like to say about this warm-up phase is that it cannot be underestimated in its value as a meditation in itself. And there might have been a number of you in this room who felt that you could have just gone on sitting had we allowed more time in this exercise. But I'd like to talk to you about this relaxation response and the ability to alter your physiology, as it can occur at any time outside of a meditation space. And sometimes in a surprising space. Yesterday, I went to the bank, and I was sitting with a young teller in one of their cubicles at one of the little desks with a computer, making some inquiries. And he asked me what I do, and I happened to mention meditation, teach meditation. And he said, meditation's a very important part of my life. He said, I use breathing practices to bring back my focus of attention. And as he's moving through all the screens, waiting for things to upload and to check this and to check that, you find yourself sitting there for a few minutes. We got the opportunity to discuss quite a lot about what he did, about what I did. But what I found really interesting was that he ended up showing me his diary for the day. He handed it across to me, and there were 4 lines written in the morning section of his diary. Number 1 was to help the clients. Number 2 was to remember my connection to my Creator. Number 3 was to remember the dollars, because that's why they're employing me. And number 4 was not to take personally anything that anybody says. And that was his point of awareness that he kept right beside him all day. That was his focus. And given his ability to meditate, which he practices every day in the morning before he gets to work, he can bring himself back when he finds that those focuses of attention wander. And so I left the bank inspired about the possibility of bringing the practice of meditation, building the moments into the day in the way that he had. And so I would encourage you to find ways that resonate with you to remind you that we have this ability at any moment to bring our attention back and focus it on what we want.
Goals again, so that we can remember them.
Okay. Well, they're his goals. So, that I will. So be kind, be helpful to the clients, to remember my connection with my Creator, to remember the dollars, as that's why I'm being employed, and not to take anything that anyone says to me personally. And I would be curious to know, and I might even go in next week to find out how much these change on a day-to-day basis. But I imagine they would. I imagine that each day in creating a new day, he brings the awareness to what do I want to focus on today? What do I want to focus on now, in the moment? And so the ability for this practice that you're developing here and in the different ways that you are, the ability to take it out into your life cannot be overestimated. I know there are many people in Melbourne who, before they pick up their children at the end of a school day, will be sitting in the car inviting the relaxation response. There'll be people before they arrive home at night after a very busy day and they want to leave the day behind, who will actually, in the space of standing on the doormat, focus on their feet, focus on their hands, focus on the breath. Notice how their breathing shifts and walk into the space of their family home. There is nowhere where you cannot do this. The only thing is to remind yourself that you can.
Then, I'm sorry, what were those last 2 goals again?
The last 2 goals.
You can tell me, I'm sorry.
Okay, so the last 2 were remember the dollars and not to take. So they're his goals. And as the evening goes on, we're going to be exploring what our own might be. So what I'm saying really is meditation can be very practical. And I have said previously that tonight's session will be also focusing on managing the distractions that life brings. However, I'm going to reframe that somewhat and say maybe the distractions and obstacles that life brings are opportunities for us to refocus and find different ways of doing things. And that's what we're going to be exploring in the warm down phase. So before we enter into a longer meditation in the warm down phase, I'm just wondering, has anybody got any questions at this point in time?
I just remember in the beginning you started off by saying the space between was exposure and
Stimulus
stimulus.
and response.
And in that space is our freedom.
Our freedom lies. And I would add our freedom to choose, to make choices that we determine that we want to make.
Would you talk about the blockers that block us from meditating?
Ah, okay, the blockers. Well, do you have any blocker in mind, any particular blockers? So the question is, can you talk to us more about the blockers that block meditation?
Yeah, well, what stops us from I start meditating, suddenly I stop. Something makes me stop.
Okay,
How do I get over that?
are you aware of what makes you stop?
My mind wanders.
Okay, great. So this is an example of noticing, and it's great that you're noticing. The mind wanders. So in the space of this session in particular, or any time that you are exploring this, you can notice how you can bring your attention back. So in the space of the meditation tonight, we're exploring coming back to the breath. We're exploring creating an uplifting word or phrase. And we're exploring the use of the finger movements with the breath.
What was the second one?
An uplifting word or phrase.
Such as?
Anything that comes in your space. Keep calm sounds wonderful. However, the interesting thing is that sometimes we're not aware of our creativity. That in our own space we will find our own way. Some people have already come up to me tonight with questions, and I have addressed their question by saying, tonight we are exploring choices. And in particular, we want you to find what works for you. And so what works for you will not work as well for somebody else. And so tonight is very much about choices and exploring, which is, it's a bit like being at a smorgasbord tonight. The table's laid out with different dishes. But what you may discover is there's a dish there that really invites you to taste it, to put it on your plate first, even though you might want morsels from other plates. There is something that draws you to bring your attention back. So I'm going to be interested at the end of the night to see what you've discovered. But I think the thing is, we don't have to be stopped by feeling stopped. We can notice what's happening when we stop, and you've already made some great discoveries. My thoughts are wandering, and that's really why we're here, to find ways to bring our thoughts back in a way that works for us. Okay. So now we're going to be exploring the warm down phase of a meditation. It's quite unusual to focus on it, but it can be a very valuable area in which to focus. So I invite you to make yourselves comfortable in the way that you know how, that suits you best. And in doing so, feel free to make any adjustments that you might want to make so that you can allow yourself the comfort that you can find within whatever parts of your body you're aware of. And I invite you to close your eyes when you're ready. And as part of our moving now through the 3 phases, we'll also be doing a little review of where we have been, what we've discovered, and we'll be creating some spaces for pauses. So sitting there now in the way that you are, becoming aware of what sense invites you to explore. Is it taste? Is it smell? Is it touch? Is it sound? Is it the corner of your lips? And you may remember that we have discovered that the body is always in the present moment. So to bring your mind and body into the moment, all you need to do is to focus on the body, the senses, the breath, in the way that you are now. And there is no right or wrong way to do this, only your way. And as you're sitting in the chair, notice how you are breathing. Noticing if you have any judgments about that, and allowing any judgments that you may have to be there so that they can dissipate. And in the space of sitting in a chair, you can now focus on your breath, the expansion and where it's occurring. And you can choose an uplifting word or phrase in your head if you find that a useful space to explore. You can explore the finger movements in concert with the breath. Whatever you feel attracted to, explore. Allow yourself the space. And in the space, you are altering your physiology. You are creating relaxing chemicals. You are switching into the parasympathetic nervous system. And you may be noticing the effect, the experience of the awareness that you're experiencing in the way that you are. And you may want to sit a little longer in the way that you are. And so my voice will pause to allow you to be in your own space. And when you notice your thoughts are wandering, you can bring them back to a place that you are anchored and connected to within your body. And so my voice will pause now for some moments to allow you to shift and move into the middle phase of meditation. And then my voice will return and I will guide you through the warm down phase. now my voice will begin to guide you through the warm down phase of the meditation. The phase that allows the continuity of the cycle of meditation, and that allows you to prepare for the next time that you want to bring meditation into your life. And I'm reminded of a story about a young man walking down a cobblestone street. And as you stay sitting in the chair as you are, noticing your breath, you might like to come with me and discover what this young man sees as he walks along the cobblestones. On the left-hand side of the road, there is a man with a pile of stones. He's chiselling away at this pile of stones. And a little further down the road, there's another man also sitting next to a pile of stones, chiselling away. So the young man walks up to the first worker that he sees and asks him what he's doing. He says, "I'm chipping away. Chipping away at stone." And the young man walks down to the other worker, who seems to be holding his stones somewhat differently, holding them in a protected, almost delicate way, as he's chiselling with a slowness and a moulding and sculpturing movement as he does. And the young man asks the same question, "What are you doing?" And this worker replies, "I'm building a cathedral." Now this young man is in the middle of a meditation series, and he starts to wonder which of these two men are meditating. He looks at the first man who's chiselling away in a very focused way. Chipping away. And the young man thinks he's meditating. He's maintaining the present moment. Then he looks at the other man and he thinks this man is also looking like he's meditating, but he gave me a different answer. He's building a cathedral. And then the young man started to wonder. He started to wonder who would be here, chiselling away at the stone on a cold, wet day. Which of these two men would still be here in the weeks, months, and even years it might take for these stones to be put in place and the cathedral completed? And he started to ask himself, what am I building? And in the space of sitting in this room, I think it's a good question to ask ourselves. What is our bigger vision? What has brought us here? How are we going to keep ourselves moving when the weather becomes inclement? When the pathway may not be as clear? When we might feel stopped at different points in time and know that we can, if we pause, find a way through, around, and beyond to the fulfillment of creating our bigger picture. And so in the space as you sit there now in the warm down phase, my voice will pause to allow you the moments of being present to your own space, possibly your own bigger picture, what you're building in the process of exploring and discovering meditation in your own life. And in the space of your breath, in the space of becoming aware, of sitting in a chair as you are, where you are, in the way that you are, become aware of your experience of yourself. And when you're ready, bring yourself back slowly and gently into an awareness of this room, becoming aware of what part or parts of your body you want to move first, second and third, to bring yourself back slowly and gently. Bringing yourself back slowly and gently to an awareness of being in this room, in a community of meditators, in a special space for meditation called Spiritgrow. And as you are completing the warm down phase of the meditation, and we are completing this series, we are in a position to now know that we have discovered some different ways of meditating. We have discovered some different purposes for which meditation can be used. And that you may well find that you have enhanced your understandings, your skills and abilities to overcome distractions and obstacles as you go forward into your own life, so that you can discover the bigger picture and what lies beyond in your own way as you go forward. And that concludes our series. Thank you.
Before we get up, I unfortunately did not have the pleasure of being at the series because I was overseas, but I knew in advance that if we have Beverly here, we'll have great meditative satisfaction. Now, it's not easy to secure Beverly's time, And to have her here has been a real honour and a real pleasure, and I think for all of us, we're very, very grateful for her contribution. A little small token, a Rosh Hashanah present for you, and we look forward to another series in the not-too-distant future. Thank you very much, Beverly.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.